The tale I am about to unfold is a challenging one to convey. This narrative is far from ordinary. And it's undoubtedly not an experience anyone would wish to endure. Yet, it delves into themes of family, intricate relationships, and delicate boundaries. At times, the elements we often overlook can transform into sources of ambiguity and confusion. The narrative unfolds around my journey with my daughter, Evelyn. In subtle, unassuming instances, the landscape of our lives gradually shifted, leading us to a junction that neither of us wished to confront. What has led us to this moment? And is there a path to return? Join me in experiencing and embracing the emotions together. The afternoon unfolded in tranquility, with the sun dipping low behind the towering structures, bathing our serene neighborhood in a gentle orange hue. I found myself in the kitchen, crafting dinner, accompanied by the soothing murmur of the radio in the background. Evelyn, my daughter, had just come back home after spending a weekend at college. The house exuded a serene, cozy atmosphere, a tranquility born from the warmth of familiarity. Evelyn had matured so swiftly that it seemed like just yesterday. She was the curious little girl trailing behind me, her mind brimming with endless questions about life. She had reached the age of 21. She had transformed from the little girl I once knew into a strong, confident, and occasionally unintentionally distant young woman. The relationship between us had evolved as she matured, and I was still adapting to that shift. The meal was prepared, and I summoned her from the living room. As we settled at the table, I couldn't help but notice her gaze. It was different, charged with an intensity that made me pause. Initially, I brushed it off as a figment of my imagination. We discussed her classes, her friends, and the deep longing she felt for home. Watching a movie, but the way she spoke, the way she looked lingering on my arm longer than usual, made me feel something I couldn't quite put into words. After dinner we decided to watch a movie together, something we used to do before she left for college. The living room felt cozier than usual, the dim lighting and soft cushions making for the perfect setting for a quiet night. I couldn't remember the last time we'd had such a peaceful evening together. As the movie played, I found myself glancing at her more than I should have, noticing how she'd grown. She was no longer the child I had raised, but a woman. And then, just as I began to feel a strange unease about the thoughts running through my mind, she moved closer to me on the couch. At first I thought it was harmless, but then her hand brushed mine. A spark shot through me, as if there was something between us that shouldn't have been there, something electric, a feeling I knew I shouldn't have felt. I quickly pulled my hand back, startled by the intensity of the moment. "What's wrong, Dad?" she asked, her voice soft, almost most worried. I looked at her, my heart pounding, not knowing what to do or say. "Nothing, baby, I'm just tired." It was all I could say, trying to brush it off and hoping she wouldn't notice the tension between us, but I knew something had changed. Something had changed in that moment. There was something we couldn't ignore. The line between father and daughter had blurred, and though neither of us had crossed it, the air was thick with unspoken thoughts. We sat there in silence, the movie still playing in the background, but neither of us really paying attention anymore. I got up, told her I needed to go to bed early. But as I left, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between us. I lay in bed that night, my mind raced with thoughts. I understood that I couldn't allow this feeling to intensify. Maintaining my distance was essential for both of us. Yet, beneath the surface, uncertainty lingered. The following morning, I awoke with a sense of unease. The occurrences of the previous night looped incessantly in my mind. I attempted to persuade myself that it was merely a figment of my imagination. I held the role of her father, neither more nor less. I cherished her profoundly, yet not in a manner that could be misconstrued. I recognized my unreasonableness, I reminded myself. As I descended the stairs, I found Evelyn already awake, seated at the kitchen table, engrossed in a book. She welcomed me with a smile, as though everything was perfectly normal. Perhaps it was indeed insignificant, merely an odd instance that only I seemed to perceive. "Good morning," I said, attempting to smile and maintain an air of normalcy. "Good morning, Dad," she replied, her voice soft and pleasant. I am contemplating a stroll later on. Would you care to accompany me? It has been some time since we last engaged in an activity together. I paused for a moment, uncertain about spending so much time alone with her after the emotions I experienced last night. Yet, I reassured myself that it was merely a walk between a father and his daughter, nothing inappropriate about that. Surely, I responded, making an effort to sound agreeable. That sounds delightful. That afternoon, we made our way to a park close to home. A place where Evelyn and I had strolled countless times during her childhood. For a brief moment, the crisp air and brilliant blue sky perfectly complemented each other. We walked side by side, engaging in light conversation about nothing significant, reminiscing about the past, discussing her aspirations, and sharing the latest bits of everyday gossip. I noticed a smile creeping onto my face, feeling at ease in Evelyn's presence. Perhaps I had overreacted the previous night. Or maybe it was just a fleeting sensitivity. As we ventured deeper into the park, there were moments when our conversation faltered, resulting in a silence that lingered longer than necessary. The atmosphere felt thick with unexpressed thoughts and emotions I was reluctant to confront. Eventually, we arrived at a clearing that offered a stunning view of the expansive lawn before us. Evelyn paused and faced me. Your unwavering support has always been a constant in my life. She spoke, her tone gentle yet earnest. I can't imagine my life without you. I made an effort to smile. The words imprisoned me. The way she expressed it, the rawness in her tone, resonated with a profound part of me that stirred my heart. I attempted to smile in order to uplift the atmosphere. No need to fret, I quipped. Dad remains right here. Yet her lips did not curve into a smile. Instead, she moved nearer, her gaze meeting mine with intensity. No. I mean, you're more than just a father to me, you're my whole world. I stood still, her words suspended in the atmosphere, laden with significance. I found myself unprepared to confront it. I scanned Evelyn's face for any indication of sentimentality, hoping this was merely a tender moment shared between father and daughter. Yet, there was an undeniable glimmer in her eyes, a gaze I found impossible to overlook. Evelyn. I softly spoke my words. I murmured, my voice trembling with emotion. You're aware that Daddy has a lot of love for you, aren't you? However, not in that manner. Not like this. I understand, she replied, her voice heavy with feeling as she leaned in closer. Yet I can't shake the thoughts of Daddy from my mind. I attempt to cast it aside. Yet it relentlessly resurfaces. My heart raced, and my body became still. The way they spoke and regarded one another was far from what one would expect between a father and daughter. My thoughts urged me to retreat, to halt this before it spiraled beyond my grasp. Yet my body felt immobilized, incapable of responding. It would be wise for us to return. I spoke, my voice trembling. It was late when I finally managed to pull away. Evelyn reached out and softly took my hand. The touch was innocent. Yet the way her fingers grazed my skin sent a tightness through my stomach. This shouldn't have felt like it. Dad, she said, her voice heavy with an unidentifiable emotion. I understand that this may not be appropriate. Yet I find myself unable to manage my emotions. A wave of panic surged through me. I withdrew my hand, stepping back, my heart racing in my chest. Evelyn. That's not possible. This is incorrect. You are my this doesn't feel right. Dad. And we shouldn't proceed with this. She cast her gaze in my direction. Her expression reflected a blend of bewilderment and pain. I understand perfectly. Dad. I am aware of my emotions. I shook my head. A wave of pain surging within me. This feels off. You're my daughter. And it's not possible. The sentence eluded me, the words felt burdensome. Fraught with peril if spoken aloud. Evelyn advanced another step in my direction. Her gaze locked onto mine. And I realized I needed to act swiftly to prevent this from escalating any further. I found it necessary to maintain a certain distance for the sake of both of us. We should go home, I said, striving to maintain a calm tone. This doesn't seem correct. Evelyn. We ought not to behave in this manner. Evelyn paused. Her head bowed slightly. Her voice heavy with disappointment. I'm sorry, Dad, she whispered. I never intended to put you in this position. I inhaled deeply, attempting to manage the surge of feelings overwhelming my heart. It's all right, love, I murmured gently, fully aware that it wasn't truly all right. We simply needed to maintain some space. The drive home was quiet. The atmosphere around us thicker than it had ever been. I understood that nothing would return to how it once was. A line had been crossed. And even though we hadn't stepped over it, something had shifted irrevocably. Once we returned home, silence enveloped us. And neither of us uttered another word. Evelyn headed directly to her room, leaving me in the living room, surveying the vacant house. Everything appeared unchanged. Yet the weight in my heart rendered the space even more unfamiliar. A part of me longed to rush up to my room to speak with Evelyn and resolve the tension. But deep down, I understood that doing so would likely complicate matters further. I settled onto the sofa, a whirlwind of thoughts swirling in my mind. Evelyn was my daughter. And the thought of us arriving at this point is beyond my comprehension. Visions of her childhood surged forth, moments when she dashed through the house. Laughter echoing. While I stood sentinel, ever prepared to shield her from any threat. Now, everything had changed. Evelyn had grown into an adult, leaving behind the innocent little girl she once was. Yet, as her father, my love for her remained steadfast, transcending the boundaries of time. That night, sleep eluded me. As I reclined in bed, my gaze fixed on the ceiling. A whirlwind of questions and fears surged through my mind. What had caused Evelyn to feel this way? The following morning, I found myself questioning whether I had made mistakes in the way I raised our child. What was once a straightforward and pure connection had spiraled into a labyrinth of complexity. The following morning, I arose feeling utterly drained. I wished for the intense feelings from the previous day to fade away. Yet they only seemed to deepen. Evelyn exited the room in silence, leaving me with unspoken questions. As I sat at the dining table, the atmosphere around us became so oppressive that it became difficult to breathe. Evelyn descended the stairs, her attire impeccably arranged, signaling her readiness to depart. I'll be back to school soon, she said, her voice steady. Yet I could feel the underlying concern beneath the surface. I nodded, struggling to find the right words. Perhaps that is a positive aspect, I responded, striving to maintain a steady tone. We require a bit of distance. She gazed at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. Yet she remained silent. Evelyn gathered her belongings. And moments later, she stood prepared to depart. I lingered in the doorway, observing her as she made her way to the car. A weight settling in my chest. All that existed between us was transformed for eternity. Wishing you a safe journey ahead, I said, my voice trembling slightly. And she glanced back to meet my gaze, her eyes filled with conflict. Thanks, Dad, she whispered, Ben quietly climbed into her car and disappeared into the distance. I stood motionless, watching as Evelyn's car vanished into the horizon. The well-known journey, in her absence, left the house feeling desolate and hauntingly silent. The entire atmosphere felt as though it had been stripped of its essence, leaving me with an undeniable sense of having lost something forever. Distance seemed like a necessary pause, a chance for us to gather our thoughts and emotions. However, the feeling that we had crossed a boundary persisted, leaving me uncertain about our relationship's future. In the weeks that ensued, I endeavored to return to a sense of normalcy. Yet everything felt irrevocably altered. The house felt eerily silent in Evelyn's absence, and I found myself unable to shake the vivid recollections of that moment. Her eyes continued to dance in my thoughts. I wanted to believe that the distance would help ease the pain and that the feeling would fade with time. Yet, deep down, I knew that once something changed, it would never be the same again. Something between Evelyn and me was broken, and no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't return to where we started. One weekend afternoon, I received a text from Evelyn. She wrote that she was trying to work through her mixed emotions, that she knew things weren't right, and that she needed time to think. I read each message, feeling a blend of sadness and relief. Evelyn needed time, and so did I. Perhaps with enough time and distance, we would find a way to mend our relationship. But perhaps things would never be the same again. A heavy sigh escaped my lips. I shut my phone and gazed out the window. The distant city exuded tranquility. Yet my heart felt otherwise. Perhaps only time would reveal the answers to the questions that neither Evelyn nor I were ready to confront at this moment. My narrative serves as a poignant reminder of the limits within family dynamics that must remain unbroken. As caregivers, we hold the duty to nurture and cherish our children without reservation. Yet it is equally important to recognize that affection should be paired with respect and appropriate boundaries. At certain points in our lives, confusion may arise, particularly as relationships evolve. However, maintaining clarity and establishing firm boundaries is essential. It is essential for parents and those nurturing close relationships to keep a clear understanding of their roles. Maintain clarity in the relationships between parent and child, ensuring that emotions do not obscure the boundaries that define them. Minor incidents can evolve into significant fractures if not addressed. And once those fractures manifest, they become incredibly challenging to mend. The insight I gained is to consistently exercise wisdom, discern right from wrong, and recognize the moment to halt before situations escalate beyond control. Honoring boundaries is essential for safeguarding the vital connections we hold dear in life. I appreciate you taking the time to engage with my narrative. Be sure to subscribe for additional content like this.